welcome back to another video. In tonight's show we'll be talking about many things, but primarily the responses that we're having after the assassination of the Secretary General of Hizbullah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, with hypersonic missiles landing in Tel Aviv following the targeting of Ansarullah of Ben Gurion Airport after the landing of Benjamin Netanyahu, or close to the landing of Benjamin Netanyahu in the airport. Hizbullah targeting a Jerusalem settlement that caused a massive power outage, and calls from Iran for deployment to Lebanon and to get more volunteers to fight Israel. I'm going to start off with the main thing. Hezbollah confirmed that the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, was assassinated indeed in the airstrikes that Israel carried out yesterday in Lebanon. It's noteworthy here to highlight the fact that Israel is targeting civilians in Lebanon and of course targeting Hezbollah. However, we should not forget that Israel killed approximately 1,000 Lebanese in the course of days, and now things are getting worse. Dr. Ghassan Abu Sitta, the Palestinian doctor who served in Gaza and helped the people in Gaza during the worst days, went to Lebanon. Now he's saying that in South Lebanon, Israel started bombing first aid hospitals and trauma stabilization points. Today it killed a doctor and 8 paramedics. Israel is targeting hospitals now in Lebanon. We have calls from Israel to cut the water off the Lebanese people, to cut the gas off the Lebanese people, and now we have a confirmation from the IDF that Israel is indeed imposing a military blockade on Lebanon. It's beyond Hezbollah. Israel is waging a war of extermination against everything that opposes it. The Palestinian people and anyone who is showing sympathy with the Palestinian people. And after they went from the Gaza genocide, they are expanding to the Lebanon genocide. They're targeting everyone coming from the world to volunteer in Gaza. They killed British people, they killed Americans, they killed multinationals, they killed people everywhere just for sympathizing with Gaza. And now they're on a rampage, on a barbaric rampage in Lebanon, again repeating what they've done in Gaza. This is beyond Hezbollah. Israel has a plan for a greater Israel, and this plan is not just Israeli. This plan is American. You're talking about the US administration behind this, not just Israel. The bombs landing are American, the jets flying are American, and the money is American. So neither Joe Biden nor the Pentagon have the right to claim that they have no knowledge about what's happening. Now, when it comes to the leadership structure of Hezbollah, you're talking about a very well embedded movement. You're not talking about a movement that relies solely on leaders. And although, of course, it's a very painful blow to have a figure with the level and might of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah being martyred, this will not affect the ability and capacity and resistance of Hezbollah as an organization. These targetings of senior figures have never affected the resistance. They only increase them in power. Israel has done that with Palestinian figures. They've done that with leaders in the Lebanese resistance. They've done that with resistance leaders and senior figures all across the region. The only thing that this has done is increase the momentum behind these people and increase the risk of Israelis. Now Benjamin Netanyahu came up with somewhat of a victory speech after the declaration from Hezbollah confirming the assassination of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, saying that this will bring the prospect of the Israelis returning to their homes in the north closer. How can it make it closer when Hezbollah are now targeting Jerusalem? Today, we had an attack on the Ma'ale Adumim settlement. This settlement is the largest settlement in the West Bank near Jerusalem. It's considered to be part of the expanded Jerusalem settlements. And in these couple of videos that I'm going to be sharing, you will see two videos, one of them with one landing, the other with a second landing, with a power outage that follows, as you can see.
والله هيو
والله هيو هيو نازل
هيو والله نزل علينا
لا
والله شظية باين هيو والله نزل هيو
نزل فاع
والله فاع
اقسم بالله فاع بالمستوطنة قاعدة والله نزل ابعد والله نزل امزح الصور
اقسم بالله فاع
هيا وقع هيا وقع هيا نسف الدنيا هناك ضرب ما هو اضرب هي وقع كمان واحد هي وقعوا بجبال ريحة هدول وين هذه بعد الخان هي معلقة أدوميم لا يا زلمة الخان هون مشور أدوميم.
Now Israel is of course censoring everything. They are not putting anything from these videos on mainstream media. They're not even talking about it. The videos that we had here came from Palestinian citizens of East Jerusalem celebrating the landing of the missiles in Israel. So Israel is being very secretive. This is not the only significant attack that we had on Israel today. We had Ansarullah. Yahya Sari', the military spokesperson of Ansarullah in Yemen, confirmed that they targeted Ben Gurion airport simultaneously with the landing of Benjamin Netanyahu. So Benjamin Netanyahu was coming back celebrating. As soon as he was landing, he was greeted by a hypersonic missile called Palestine 2 coming from Yemen. So he celebrated for a very short while, and then the headache came after his celebration. Why is Benjamin Netanyahu escalating? Well, Israel has a plan. And of course, Benjamin Netanyahu is an ultimate representation of the true sociopathy and genocidal state of Israel. Israel existed on mass terror and barbarism and expulsion, and it continues to do so. And Benjamin Netanyahu is representing all of this. However, Benjamin Netanyahu is not only an individual. Here you have the American administration behind him, alongside, of course, some European capitals and perhaps a few Arab states as well, although they don't declare it. Now he wants the greater Israel. We're clearly seeing a war that is constantly expanding, and the man wants to exterminate people. And it looks like the talks about the new Middle East that the United States administration had following the Iraq invasion 2003 are being implemented 20 years later. Benjamin Netanyahu is not only talking about Gaza, he's talking about Lebanon, he's talking about Yemen, he's talking about Iraq, he's talking about Iran, and ministers in his government are talking about Jordan. They're talking about Sinai as well. You're talking about an all-out war. This is an all-out war, and this latest assassination of a figure with the level of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah is escalating things further. Now we have calls from Iran. Firstly, we had a couple of comments. Iran, they declared 5 days of mourning. They love Nasrallah very much, and people will be mourning in Iran for 5 days. Khamenei, Sayyid Ali Khamenei, he had a couple of tweets today. One of them said, "By the grace and power of God, the blows struck by the resistance front on the worn-out, deteriorating body of the Zionist regime will become even more crushing." In another one, he stated, "The foundation that Sayyid Nasrallah established in Lebanon and the direction he provided to other centers of resistance will not be destroyed as a result of his martyrdom, but rather it will also be strengthened due to his sacrifice and that of the other martyrs." And the most significant one was this: it is an obligation for all Muslims to stand with the people of Lebanon and the Honorable Hizbullah, offering their resources and assistance as Hizbullah confronts the usurping, cruel, malicious Zionist regime. This is a call for action. This is not just solidarity here. Offering their resources and assistance without having a limit or a further elaboration as to what resources or assistance we're talking about here. However, we did have an elaboration from another figure from Iran. This figure is the Deputy Foreign Minister for International Affairs, Ayatollah Muhammad Hassan Akhtari. He confirmed today on Saturday, September the 28th, 2024, that Iran will open the doors of volunteering for Iranians in the coming days to deploy them in Lebanon and the occupied Syrian Golan Heights. Akhtari said in a statement received by Baghdad today that we can send forces to Lebanon to fight Israel as we did in 1981. This statement comes after Israel officially announced the assassination of the Secretary General of Hizbullah, Hassan Nasrallah, in a raid launched by Israeli warplanes on Friday evening, September 27th, on Har Tehreek in the southern suburb of the Lebanese capital, Beirut. So you are talking about deployment. Now, he was only talking about Iran, but the supreme leader was talking about the resistance. And when it comes to the resistance from an Iranian perspective, they have no boundaries. So you're talking about people from Iraq, people from Yemen, people from other countries as well, wherever they see fit and when they see fit. And if we take some of these countries individually, in Iraq, we only had one resistance movement the other day declaring that they're able to send 100,000 people. So if you combine all of them, you're talking about over 1 million willing to go, at least over 1 million willing to go and fight side by side with Hezbollah. And Israel in no way, shape or form will be able to give Hezbollah a very significant blow only with airstrikes. Look at the example of Gaza. They've had airstrikes, they've had a ground invasion for a year, and they cannot eliminate Hamas. With Hezbollah, indeed, they managed to infiltrate and carry out strikes that hurt Hezbollah very much when it comes to senior figures. However, they haven't cracked the most important thing, which is their attack capabilities. They've reached their senior figures, they are assassinating them, but they are not taking down their missile capabilities. And if Hezbollah are still able to launch missiles after all of this attack on the senior figures and all of this infiltration when it comes to targeted assassination, then what has Israel achieved? You haven't stopped the action. You're killing the people, you're not stopping the action. But that has been Israel all throughout its history. All about bloodlust and more killing and more murder, regardless of the fact that it never stops the thing that Israel claims to be fighting against, which is constant attacks against it. Again, they killed the spiritual leader of Hamas and the Palestinian people, Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, and senior figures of Hamas, of the PIJ, other resistance movements in Palestine and in Lebanon. They killed scientists all across the Arab and Muslim world. And in Iran, they constantly have targeted assassinations. In Syria as well. What has that achieved? Nothing. Hezbollah constantly increased their capabilities. The resistance only grows stronger, and nothing is stopping these people. But there's someone benefiting. And again, although he is enabled by the state of Israel, by the United States that enables him and the backing that he gets from other sides as well. But Benjamin Netanyahu is winning now in Israel. Why? Because firstly, Israel now declared more emergency measures. What does that mean? We can't have protests. So the Saturday protests in Israel of the families of the Israeli prisoners of war held in Gaza cannot take place, unfortunately. Anyone who opposes Netanyahu and the war can probably maybe tweet something or have a post on social media. Nothing more than that. Benjamin Netanyahu temporarily lifted the pressure of the massive protests, from the massive protests that he had against him in recent weeks, and now people cannot protest against him. And by the way, when it comes to the families of the Israelis who are held in Gaza, these people are opposing the moves in Lebanon heavily. They're saying, what is this serving us when it comes to Gaza? Some people are trying to connect the two. However, they're not believing Benjamin Netanyahu. Why? Because they're seeing that Benjamin Netanyahu's actions now in Lebanon are doing the contrary, the opposite of what he claimed. He said we wanted to bring the people back to the north, and what he's doing is he's getting more Israelis into shelters without providing an answer to the crucial element that is posing a threat to him from Lebanon, which is the strategic missiles. And the missiles that have been landing on Israel from Hizbullah in the past few days are heavy strategic missiles, no interception, no Iron Dome, and in many cases no sirens. That was the case in many other parts as well, in bases too. They're getting drone attacks from Iraq that are landing in Israeli bases on a day-to-day basis. Now they don't have an answer for it, and they are expanding this risk on them. So Benjamin Netanyahu can celebrate momentarily. However, like the martyr Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah told him, laugh a little, you will cry a lot.
والله هيو
هيا والله هيا هيا نازل
هيا والله نزل
نزل علينا
لا
والله شظية باين هيو هيو والله نزل هيو
هيا نزل فاع
والله فقع
فاع اقسم بالله فاع بالمستوطنة قاعدة والله نزل ابعد والله نزل امزح الصور
اقسم
انا
بالله فقع
هيا وقع هيا وقع هيا نسف الدنيا هناك ضرب محاول اضرب هي وقع كمان واحد هي وقعوا بجبال ريحه هدول وين هذه بعد الخان هي معلقه ادوميم لا يا زلمه الخان هون خان الاحمر مشور ادوميم